What's up, crypto legends? How's everybody doing? Let's analyze the situation. Hope you had a fantastic weekend, everybody. Happy Sunday. Let's analyze the situation here for Bitcoin. There's a little bit of altcoin hype throughout social media. We can see that throughout all different social media channels from a lot of people. We're going to analyze the situation, of course, for those altcoins. Make sure to absolutely destroy that like button, guys, on your way in. How is everyone doing? Let's analyze the situation all together here. How's everyone doing? Let's go. Alex, let's go, my man. How are you doing? Mikhail, it's 6 o'clock. Yes, it is. It is 6:07 right now. We got that intro going for a few minutes. Moon the likes, moon them up. Alex, much love to you, brother. Jerome Powell, morning legends. Man, I love the sound of the new intro. Thanks for spending your Sunday with us. I've tried to find some good long entries today, but looks a bunch bad stop losses. We do want to be a little bit cautious. I will be talking about some altcoins. Bitcoin, we need to understand where Bitcoin is, okay? We need to understand where Bitcoin is because Bitcoin has really just rallying, consolidation, 150K Bitcoin already, right? In the next coming weeks. We'll eventually get some kind of pullback. That's what we want to be ready for, right? We are here to get ready for what could happen. I've got a bunch of altcoins, very solid projects. We know that the big ones have already been taking a big pop right to the upside, which is Ethereum, Dogecoin is rallying very good, okay? Some of the high cap coins are really taking that push to the upside in the last few days. And now we are going to be analyzing some mid-high cap coins that are lagging behind. However, they have rallied, and we're going to be talking about them just like we used to. I think it's about ready to get some scenarios ready like we've done throughout November of 2024 and also throughout the last few years, right? This right over here is Chainlink, right? There's many live streams here. I mean, this is just because I'm addicted to Chainlink. I understand the technology and how it's going to be used in the future. And I just wanted to accumulate in this range at the $6, $7, $8 area, looking for that, you know, big breakout at some point, right? Late 2023, part of 2024. So my biggest altcoin holding is Chainlink. Then below that is Ethereum. We are going to spot a few of these different altcoins. There were some altcoins that played out very nicely throughout November and December. And some of the altcoins such as Cadena, other ones like 𝗖𝗿. I got 𝗖𝗿 here ready for you guys. You know, I'm actually still in a loss from 𝗖𝗿. I was starting to accumulate in this area. Nothing too major. But we can't say that we win them all, right? Just holding those crypto assets. But Constellation DAG, Phala network, which is also added in today's video. Lots of them managed to make a 4-5x profit throughout the pump in November, December of 2024, just to stay on the conservative side. And as we stayed on the conservative side, well, we didn't have a very good last few months, right? It's been a big downtrend. And we know that a lot of people were hyping altcoins throughout November, December, January, as Donald Trump was joining as president. And they were just, you know, shilling and hyping all of the altcoins, right? To just buy. Biggest altcoin season ever, biggest bull run ever in 2025. And now I think is the moment that we can analyze the breakup structure on many altcoins. I've got several altcoins ready here. And we're going to be ready for a pullback, okay? Because this is the moment where lots of people are going to be buying the small little pumps that have happened, and they are not aware of the structure and the pullback that could happen, especially when you understand where Bitcoin is at the moment and how it's rallied here, how it's rallied throughout April and May. And this is crucial to understand, because if Bitcoin takes a little drop of 5%, then obviously those altcoins will be pulled back. But that is where we want the altcoins to go to get that opportunity. We don't want to kind of hype in because we're going to miss the altcoin season, guys. This is going to be a multi-monthly thing, okay? Just like we talked about on Chainlink. This was in mid 2023, almost two years ago. This is going to take time. These, you know, especially when we're talking about the accumulation stage, right? We could talk about some possible swing trading setups, but swing trading is long term, right? It's going to take several weeks and even several months when we take this into consideration. And we want to be cautious and understand where we at, because I know a lot of you right now, right, are being hyped up, right, with social media, altcoin season up only, and this is where people get wrecked, okay? So, you know, nothing got to do with buying altcoin. You can buy altcoins and hold them. If you don't sell them, then it's fine, right? You just hold on those minor losses, unrealized losses, till it picks up, right? So we'll be analyzing a few altcoins. It is time. I don't usually do altcoins, but I think it's time. I've been taking a look at a few altcoins that I do believe will do very well in the coming months, especially the ones that have formed a higher low from the lows of the bear market, right? Because a lot of them have actually gone below the low of the bear market, right, of 2022 or 2023. Some of them have formed a higher low and they look pretty damn strong. One of them is ICP. ICP, I think, is in a beautiful zone. I've been doing some technical analysis, analyzing the structure here, and it looks pretty damn solid. We'll be going through the opportunities either for DCAing in, right, buying a bag, right, and holding up for the next few months, because I do see ICP getting above $20. Now that's only a 4x if you buy the bag, but if you just buy the bag, then at least you're holding the volatility in this range, the potential volatility, right, that could happen in this area. We are going to go through the price of Bitcoin, of course, as always, just grinding to the upside, grinding to the upside. Now we have our last level of resistance here on the chart, which is the value area high of the entire range of the last year, basically, right? Since November of 2024. Doesn't reach a year, around about 7-8 months approximately, right? And we're just hitting that resistance area. What other resistance do we have here on Bitcoin? And we need to analyze the different projections, right? What different projections do we have here to the upside? Can Bitcoin break out next week above all-time high and just continue a rocket here to the upside? Absolutely yes. But if this does happen, I can tell you that the peak of the bull run will very likely happen sooner, all right? The more you pump up in an euphoric stage with no major corrections, the more danger there is, okay, in the next coming weeks, because you need those pullbacks, right? This wave would be coming to its end stages if we just continue pumping. The hype will be built once we cross all-time high, and then we're looking at, $115,000, $125,000, and that is the moment where a lot of retail are going to come in, and it can be an early peak of the cycle. If we were to get that nice corrective move, then we do have very high potential of going to much higher levels, okay? So it all has to do in, if we go up now in the next coming weeks with hardly any pullbacks, this is the moment of max euphoria, which eventually is going to be dangerous, because this would be the end of an impulsive move to the upside where you will be getting a pretty steep corrective move. On the other side, okay, there's only two scenarios here. One is slightly bearish on the lower time frame, and one is very bullish on the lower time frame, right? Which we just continue here to the upside. But staying real and analyzing where we at, okay, a correction does make sense, okay? But there's two scenarios. We either just continue to the upside and we just pop out next week through our all-time high, or we do get the pullback and we get to the strongest level of support, all right, to then look for continuation to the upside, which would be even better, right? Because then you're looking at a projected third wave where you could go to much, much higher levels, right, in the next couple of months. So let's go first of all through the comment section. Say hello to the beautiful community. Okay, just been scrolling down here. Imagine missing that Ethereum move. I DCA'd. I didn't buy much Ethereum, just bought 5 Ethereum approximately in the last few weeks. Ethereum had a massive move to the upside. I mean, all depending on your strategy. For me, I was happy to DCA. I have enough Ethereum bought from this range over here. I did buy just for the sake of the channel, right? Just so we can see the returns coming in the next coming months. So the plan here was either DCAing on Ethereum or getting into some swing longs with a low leverage, right? You name it. If you want to long these, these altcoins, you want to consider low leverage, right? You want to consider 3-4x leverage if you're planning to do a DCA on a swing long position. But it's pretty epic where Ethereum, and I'm not going to sell any Ethereum. I do think that Ethereum, if it does get that pullback, we're just going to bounce and head up to all-time high, just because those are my swing longs basically, right? The bags that I have on Ethereum. So I am kind of interested in looking for short positions on Bitcoin, okay? But once we get a sign of weakness, because that is hedging the amount of spot bags that I do have, okay? So Ethereum definitely looks very corrective in this zone. Where we bounce as well on Ethereum is pretty epic. It literally bounced at the point of control of the last, few years range, right? The point of control right over here. Absolutely beautiful. Just sweeping up that low for a liquidity grab, and then epic bounce here throughout the last, 1 to 2 weeks. Very, very aggressive bounce in the last few days. We were talking about, DCAing, right? That Ethereum is going to find a bounce at some stage here, because also when we consider not only the point of control of this range, we do have a massive corrective structure in this area for the last few years. We got a zigzag right over there. This was not impulsive. All of this movement to the upside considered as a double zigzag, because you got a zigzag here, correction, and another steep zigzag. No major impulse. Okay, this could have been an impulse, but it retraced too much. So then you consider the flat scenario right over here to form that WXY. And when you do take a look at the last flat, it bounced exactly at the 1.618 extension, right? This is where you see technical analysis. Sorry, not 1.618 extension was actually all the way down here at $1,000. The 1236, 1382 extension here. But that point of control is what managed to hold very, very nicely that support on Ethereum. And Ethereum, in my opinion, is going to be heading to new all-time highs in 2025. Is it the moment to buy? Is it the moment to hype up? Absolutely not, guys. You know, we will get some pullbacks at some stage and we need to be ready. And what is the best level of support here to take into consideration on Ethereum is eventually that resistance support flip that we do have here just at the $2,200, $2,100. Now, it seems like that Ethereum cannot pull back. It's a rocket. It's just going to go straight up. But this would be a very interesting zone to take into consideration here for Ethereum if we do get that pullback. Okay, it's the strongest level of support at 2,200, right, where we have seen multiple resistance support flips right over here. Now, I want to focus on Bitcoin first of all, okay? Then we go through some different altcoins. This is the S&P 500. I want to give my opinion on the stock market S&P 500. I'm not sure if you did see that video of Donald Trump, which he is basically saying, you know, you better buy some stocks, you better buy some US stocks because they're all going to fly, right? I'm not sure if you guys have seen that. I was trying to look for that video. Somebody posted it on X. You know, you better buy some US stocks because, you know, we're going to be big. We're going to be very, very big. You know, that's, you know, when you see the president saying, yeah, you buy stocks because we're all going to make money, then, you know, right? The last time when we had the inauguration here from Donald Trump, we knew it was the top. Also, he tweeted in this area where we created a massive pump. He did post a tweet on something bullish about Bitcoin. I can't remember what it was, but you know, that instantly came down. So now the moment when he comes out and say, yeah, you know, buy stocks because they're all going to fly. Well, whew, you know, that is the moment that you want to stay a little bit aware, right, of what this character does say. I do love him, he's great, but we just want to be a little bit aware on that situation. Let's go through. The XRP is an absolute disaster. What's going on with XRP? XRP is very slow, I have to say. XRP, you got to give it a little bit of time. XRP had one of the most epic rallies throughout throughout November and December. I mean, you cannot expect XRP to fly again here from this range. This is a very good sign. This is a very, very good corrective move. We analyzed this on one video update. The XRP, this range right over here, is extremely corrective, and this will highly likely get that breakout in the next coming weeks, regardless if it's days or weeks, and we get another corrective move. But all of this consolidation from the last couple of months is extremely corrective, right? It's just like Bitcoin. We are hitting resistance, but all of these movements to the downside, they are corrective. All of this is corrective. All of this is corrective. For the moment, there's nothing weak about this consolidation. You might think it's exhaustion, right? But it's not. We haven't had our first major signal of weakness. And we'll go through the local price action. I'll explain a few scenarios that we mentioned the other day, which are very, very interesting because we literally formed either a WXY or we're forming an expanding diagonal here, which is, you know, very, very interesting. I'll go in detail here throughout this range on Bitcoin. But XRP, yeah, it's a matter of time. You cannot expect XRP to fly and continue flying with very, very shallow, pullbacks when it had a massive rally of, I don't know what's the percentage here. In just a matter of a few weeks, it pumped over 500%. This is what you want to see. this gives room for an explosive move to the upside in the coming weeks, right? That's what you need. You need a large consolidation before you get the rocket, right? Then a lot of people are going to be FOMO, you know, well, they'll be very, very bullish once that breakout happens. But any XRP holder out there or trader that's been longing from lower should be excited with this chart, okay? It's just a matter of being patient. Looks very, very good indeed. Sui, please. Aditya, my man. Sin Games, 81 likes. We can do better. Smash up the like button. Sin Games here giving support and power like Aditya. I'm holding XRP since 35 cents. Absolutely wonderful. I do not hold a single penny of XRP, so I missed on the entire rally. But I'm holding Bitcoin, I'm holding Ethereum, holding Chainlink, holding some other altcoins. But yeah, XRP, you know, you can't get them all, right? You can't get them all. And I want to explain about, you know, having many altcoins in the portfolio, because I have under 30 altcoins in my portfolio. You don't really need to have that many, if I'm honest, right? Of course, you're trying to look for that altcoin to put $1,000 and it's going to do that 100x and you're going to make $100,000, right? And it does make sense that you have a huge diversification. My goodness, that word didn't want to come out, because you want to kind of catch that 100x, right? That 100x. But it's very, very hard. Let's be clear. Very, very hard, especially for the ones that have been pumping already. And realistically, most of them are going to do in between a 5 and a 15x, right? That's the usual range in an altcoin season. You're going to see that's what happened to me on the previous cycle. On the previous cycle, when we got the bull run here, most of the altcoins did a similar return. On the previous cycle, it was a little bit more than but this cycle I am going to be a little bit more conservative, but most of them did about a 15 to 30x. Some of them did 17, another one did 22x from the initial buying zone, okay, of accumulation, but it was round about that range. The one that I did more was on VeChain, that managed to make a 40x approximately, because I did buy when we had the C19 crash. But most of them are going to do a very, very similar X, right? Especially when you're considering the mid-high caps. When you buy the mid-high caps, you know, you're looking at a realistic range of 5 to 10x. If you want to try and get those 50x's, right, of buying and holding, you need to go down the rabbit hole, go on the low cap, especially the new AI crypto coins are the ones that you need to take a look at. But I'm happy to do a 5-10x, right? I've been holding Chainlink, for example, and buying Chainlink very aggressively. And, you know, it all depends on the amount of money that you put in. If you put $1,000, then a 10x is going to be $10,000. But if you have $200,000, $300,000 on this coin and it does a 5-10x, and, you know, you're talking about a couple of million right there, right? So it really depends on your appetite and how much money you can invest on these different ones. But for me, this was a long-term safe bet, you know, that I'm still pretty much holding. I haven't sold a single Chainlink since I started buying in 2019. So anyway, and you know, regarding trading, we focus more on intraday trading setups, right? You know, when I'm trading, I don't focus mainly on altcoins, but we can talk about some possible, you know, levels of support, expecting some kind of a pullback on the altcoins, because this is the moment where we have the euphoria, right? Euphoria is kicking in right now, and you can see it, right? I've had my coffee this morning looking at X, and I do follow many different, right, crypto influencers, analysts right there, and oh my goodness, they're the hype that we're pushing for the altcoin season, which does not look bad. It looks pretty good, if I'm honest. Looks, you know, is real, right? The hype is real. But what I want to make you understand is that, you know, the small little rally in the last couple of weeks has happened, right? And we could expect a few pullbacks, especially on altcoins. And that's where I want to get you ready to not fear the pullback, because the pullback that happens from now on several altcoins is going to be the kind of pullback. I knew it was a fake out, it's a fake pump, bear market, right? It's, you know, you have that flip-flop of sentiment. You're pumping, it's euphoric. You're dumping, that's it, bear market, right? This is the moment that we need to get ready to change that thinking, okay? Because these altcoins that I'm going to talk about, especially 𝗖𝗍𝗄𝗽, this is an extremely bullish chart, extremely bullish, okay? This one had a larger corrective structure. This movement down that has happened on 𝗖𝗍𝗄𝗽 is corrective, okay? The movement down is corrective, meaning that eventually at some point you are going to see some aggressive pumping, some aggressive reversal price action, especially when you are coming from the bear market here throughout 2022, bottoming out, accumulation, right? You have your first wave to the upside, and the first wave to the upside generally is the disbelief rally, especially when you get this pullback down, right? Altcoin season, crypto but bull market is cancelled. It's cancelled, right? Now a lot of people are going to start talking about the, no QE, right? No quantitative easing, then no bull run, right? No interest rate cuts, then no bull run, right? It is true that we don't have much retail, okay? But this is the moment that you want to consider really stepping in big. You got a beautiful harmonic pattern here as well, right? But not only looking at harmonic, you are looking at all of this movement to the downside to be extremely corrective. So in this case, it is more of a double zigzag. You got a zigzag move here as well. I mean, this is something that we were analyzing throughout the last few months, that this movement down is very corrective. After this bounce, you have also this movement followed by this one, which makes it corrective, especially when you're coming from a major rally like this. Very explosive, very bullish, and now just a multi-monthly correction. So 𝗖𝗍𝗄𝗽 is one of those crypto projects, that I do see it going to $30, $40, right? Staying realistic, we're looking at a 5 to 10x on these cryptos. I am targeting these highs at least, and then the extra push that we do get, then absolutely wonderful, right? But overall, the target zone is this one, and then we'll see if the price is going to fly through the levels or not, which could be the case, right? So when you do take a look at these pumps, right, on some altcoins, especially Ethereum, you might think, I've missed out, right? I've missed out on Ethereum, right? We missed out on XRP. I missed out on the pumps that have happened on these high cap coins. Dogecoin's doing pretty well, right? These high cap coins do quite well. But Fartcoin to $10, I can see here in the comment section. But when we consider all of these different high cap, good projects, and we take a look at the pump that's happened in the last few weeks, I mean, this is nothing, right? But this is already losing the downtrend momentum, right? You could arguably discuss it is already breaking out from that wedgie structure. Okay, the downtrend has been broken, but when you zoom out, yeah, you have time for this. You have time to either get into a very responsible low leverage swing long position. I would wait for a little bit of a pullback, okay? You always want to try and get in on the pullback, not as you're pumping, because if not, you're going to eat the pullback, right? You will be the pullback. But when you consider the higher time frame, you can see that this has been a nothing, right? Nothing yet, especially on such an epic project like 𝗖𝗍𝗄𝗽. And understanding that this movement is corrective and it's not impulsive, you're still maintaining a higher low, which is good after getting these devastating pullbacks, okay, since January. This is an extremely good sign. This means that this project is bullish. This project is very, very good. So 𝗖𝗍𝗄𝗽 is one of them, guys, all right? We'll be diving into some other ones that, they need to be good projects. If you want to start speculating and gambling on some low cap coins such as Fartcoin and the rest of them, then yeah, you can make some quicker gains, right? That is all for the aggressive gamblers out there. But 𝗖𝗍𝗄𝗽 is a very, very solid project, and this movement is very, very corrective. So I would want to go first onto Bitcoin, then we'll do some analysis on your favorite altcoins, but also the ones that I have here on the chart, okay? 𝗖𝗍𝗄𝗽 being one of them, to really look at the support levels just in case we do get that pullback, right? And look for the greater opportunities. But to be honest, DCAing at these levels, $5, $4, bring it on, okay? The momentum to the downside is already getting lost, and this could consolidate with some pullbacks or even continuation to the upside for the next coming weeks before it actually, you know, starts pumping aggressively. And when it starts pumping aggressively, you know you're going to miss out very, very quickly, right? Just like Ethereum, when we do take a look at the Ethereum chart, you know, this happened very, very fast. This pump has happened in, you know, 2-3 days of 50%. It happens very, very fast. And of course, you know, the people that haven't bought Ethereum or got into any longs, they're going to be feeling missed out, right? I missed out on you know, buying here the fear or getting into some longs here in this, you know, small little uptrend. And then it happens very, very fast. We are going to see these movements on some altcoins, right? But what is most important is Bitcoin, because if Bitcoin takes a dip of 5 to 10%, which is very much a possibility, Bitcoin can do that already, especially when we hit this huge resistance zone. And when you take Elliott wave theory into consideration, well, you formed a 5-wave structure. So a pullback to the mid 90k levels would make sense. And of course, from current price, that would be a pullback of over 6-7%, and altcoins will get that pullback, right? Altcoins will get that, you know, correlation with Bitcoin if it does get the pullback of 10 to 15%. That will be the moment of opportunity. That will be the moment of opportunity, okay? Because now when we see the euphoric, you know, characters out in social media, then, you know, you're literally going to buy up the highs. You know, you're literally going to buy up the pump, the highs of the pump. Anybody that is, you know, literally buying, you know, right now based on the hype of social media, they are going to be the pullback, right? You are going to be the pullback. So the pullback that could happen in the next coming days is going to be the moment that we want to step in and analyze. I will be doing the live streams on the altcoins, okay, throughout the next couple of weeks, so we can analyze the situation for the opportunity. We've got our first sign of strength on some altcoins, especially Ethereum. So that is a good start. We will be detecting, just like we have done throughout November and December, right? You know, well, literally September, October, November, when we had some major consolidations, we were analyzing and doing altcoin videos for weeks and weeks. And I know a lot of people that have been a legit follower, they must have made some money out of those pumps, because Constellation DAG, I do have it here for today as well, which is looking, this is looking absolute fire. Constellation DAG is looking like fire. We are forming a little bit of an ascending triangle formation here, but nothing confirmed yet here on the breakoff structure. You could come down to the lower band of the support of this ascending little triangle right there. It is forming a higher low for the moment. Very corrective price action. Very corrective price action after forming a gigantic rally here, right? And Constellation DAG was one of them that we were screaming for here in this range throughout, you know, September, October. Who remembers Constellation DAG, guys? Any legit follower here from 2024, when we were diving on some altcoins that were bottoming out, and the take profit area, right? And this was only a 4x, right? A 4x is not much for people that are diving into crypto, but Constellation DAG, with this price action and the pump that we had in December, looks very, very good indeed. So we'll be going through Constellation DAG here in the next 10 to 15 minutes. Let's go through Bitcoin and understand the different scenarios, okay? Let's go right away. Pump, pump, pump. We do see here in the comment section, all-time high on Monday. Very possible, my man Hamid. Very possible. I'm not going to say no. I'm not going to say no. It's very possible that we do hit. I remember, says Jawad. absolute legend, legit follower here of the channel, sticking around. And this was a moment that, you know, it was so funny because when the sentiment in crypto here was very bad, right? Throughout the summer and also, you know, August, September of 2024. And I remember seeing the pump on many altcoins happening throughout November, December, which we were very much ready. You know, I managed to profit quite a bit with Constellation DAG because the target was the highs of March. Constellation DAG, there was PRQ, there was a few of the altcoins that the targets were real, you know, and I'm not putting $10,000 on these coins, you know, I'm putting a little, you know, significant chunk so I can get out with a chunk here, which was the target zone. But I remember the views on YouTube were very low and people were like, you know, I can't, you know, yeah, I've had it, you know, I've had it with crypto, I'm out, right? And then the views in November, December were absolutely insane. They basically doubled. And you realize that that's the, you know, when the interest comes from retail, it's time to get out. You know, it's time to at least take profit, right? Which is very, very interesting, right? This is how the world, you know, goes around. You know, you get low interest when the interest needs to be very big. And you get a lot of interest when the prices have already pumped. And the expectations for altcoins when we had this pump in November, December, were very high. You know, it was, we are going to be absolutely rocketing in 2025, making, you know, multi-millionaires all around the world that are in crypto. And a lot of the coins did a 3, 4, 5, 6x, most of them. Of course, then when you consider 𝗓𝗏, yeah, this one did about, you know, this one did a lot. You know, there are just a bunch of them that you can count with your hand that did make the 30, 40, 50x if you held on, right, from the bear market lows of 2022. But that is only a bunch of them, right? If you need to hold on the rally, and if you hold on for too long, then yeah, you're gonna, you know, your gains are gonna go down. So 𝗓𝗏 is the best example here that you really need to consider taking profits, right, on the rally, because I am sure there are many people that they were making a 10x, 15, 20x on 𝗓𝗏 as they, you know, invested throughout 2023 and 2024. People will be very, very mad with this major collapse. 𝗓𝗏 is still a very working project, so I do see a recovery on this one. I know this was just a major event that happened. Based on you know, this was a liquidity issue basically, right? Highly leveraged, right? The market capitalization did not make sense on this one, and just by selling a few $1 million in a multi-billion project, you get this issue when it's highly leveraged, right? So we want to be a little bit cautious on these situations on you know, many altcoins, because this was a leveraged pump. You know, most, you know, I'm not sure how much of it was 70, 80%. Was, you know, a bunch of fairy dust, right? not real. And they had a massive liquidity issue here with that movement to the downside just by selling a few million in the open market, which, you know, does happen, right? This is a problem with leverage as well, right? When something's over leveraged, you get these kind of events. We want to try and stay away from this. We want to try and buy low. We want to try and take profit on the way up. We don't want to be part of this. And the hype was real for this crypto project, right? One of the strongest real world asset projects. This is what happens, right, when it's over leveraged. Anyway, let's focus here on the price of Bitcoin and talk about the different scenarios. Well, you know, I need to accept that all-time high looks imminent at this stage. All-time high looks imminent at this stage. And the main reason why, this was a very, very corrective structure. We knew that reversal was going to happen at some point. And with this price action, we have a confirmed bullish impulsive move, which is either coming to its end stages or we are still in the wave 3. Now, let's take this out of the way and let's just talk about Elliott wave theory. And then we'll go through the confluence levels, right, of support and resistance. But let's just go with Elliott wave theory a little bit here and understand this pump that we've had on Bitcoin throughout the last few weeks. My man, can we take a look at prompt? I'm looking to take along. Right, let's keep those super chats later on for the stream because I got a few altcoins that I want to give you my opinion on, okay? Aditya, my man, much love to you, brother. Hi, mate. News on China. We are productive. Best sense says Monday is rockets. Okay, yeah, that could be something. All-time high on Monday, says Hamid. Much love to you, brother. Very possible. We cannot say it's not going to happen. The psychology of it is wild. Yes, sweeping LNH. Is that Squid Game? No, it's not. This OM is 𝗲𝗏, but it does have its logo. The logo is similar to the Squid Game. Yeah, very true. But it's not. No, it's 𝗲𝗏. It's one of the most respected real world asset, right? Which is tokenization of real assets, right? Projects that took a major dump, but it was a liquidity crunch, literally. The pump was produced by massive amount of leverage. So yeah, anyway, we're not here to talk about this. I've got it on the chart because I want to talk about the bullish scenarios. You know, that the dump has happened, the consolidation is happening. You know, the best case scenario right now for this one is one of the only scenarios for 𝗲𝗏 is actually recovering in the next coming months very aggressively, because this has happened, right? The fear, the bad news, the massive big dump has happened, and this is still a working project. So all of the nonsense, and this is a scam right now, it has happened, and this becomes a good, interesting zone to DCA. You want to stay away from all of these events and stay away, of course, in buying the hype. You know, when you realize, you know, I remember talking about this one a few months ago saying, you know, I missed out on this one. This one's only, unless you want to trade it, this one's already pumped, you know, just about buying this one for the portfolio all the way up here was definitely not an option. You know, this was not an option. This one already rallied a lot in the last 2 years, and you just, you know, feel missed out, right? Now, when all of this has happened, now you're kind of interested, especially when it's a very hated coin right now, and it's still a very solid working project, real world asset. And this is the moment you should be interested. And I know a lot of people are going to hate it because of this scenario, but this is a liquidity issue. There's nothing bad about the project. It's just been a liquidity issue. So let's go through Bitcoin. I will go through, let's just quickly say, you know, talk about this crypto project here from my man, Mike. Much love to you. Thanks for the super chat. Prompt. Let's take a look at prompt. I need to take a look at this now that you're giving me the super chat. Okay. Prompt. What is, I have no idea what this is. Prompt US dollar. You said that you are in a long position, if I'm not mistaken, right? I am looking to long. Okay, I'm looking to take a long on prompt. I'm not sure if this is the one. I just want to check, see if this is a mid cap, low cap. What does it, where is it in? AI agent. Okay, AI agent, DeFi. AI agent, market cap 79. So it's a mid, low cap. Still good. Got exponential growth possibly. And you're looking to get into a long position on this one. I have to say, yeah, I have to say that this does look pretty damn solid. This does, just by looking at the chart here with no indicators and no nothing, no moving averages and no money flow or anything, I can already see, since it's, you know, initial stages, right? Because this one was launched not long ago, right? This is one was launched, yeah, last month. By the looks of things, with a big massive pump. So it's had its first pump and it's had its first big major correction with a higher low. That's a good sign. With this higher low, the movement to the upside does look pretty damn solid. pretty damn solid. You got the big pump hype, big correction bottoming out, and from the lows, you have a perfect 5-wave move to the upside, as you can see here. It has corrected down, yeah, to the golden pocket 7/8 Fibonacci. So you really need to consider that being a wave 2 here. And with this pump, let's go through the lower time frame. I'm just going to give you here now. It is dumping quite nicely, preferably on this one. Yeah, let's take a look at the fixed volume profile to see if we do have any goods. Yeah, a higher low here is definitely a possibility. A higher low here is definitely a possibility for this one. However, if it does lose this point of control from the last few weeks, I would really consider an ABC flat. Okay, so you want to see this level holding in the next 24 hours, right? This is prompt US dollar tether, and an AI agent, right? You got the massive rally. This structure does look finished. Okay, the structure here to the upside looks very impulsive. You got, you know, perfect, really nice 5-wave impulsive move to the upside. Pretty steep correction here throughout the first week of May, and now you got your first rally. It is a volatile crypto. I mean, this is looking at the 15-minute chart, so this has been having some epic swings. You want to be a little bit cautious. This looks like we're looking at the daily time frame, but it's the 15-minute. This is swinging big time, right? We're talking about pumps of 40-30% in a matter of a few days. So it is a volatile crypto. The biggest support that you do have here, it looks bullish. The trend is pretty clear. Movements here are looking more corrective. You got a big breakout here of the downtrend. There's 2 scenarios that could happen here, in my opinion. You form a higher low here because you're forming a 1-2, 1-2, and then you form the third wave here in the next 1 to 2 weeks. You're heading up very aggressively, or you actually lose the point of control to sweep the liquidity of the lows. And that's the moment that, you know, especially considering where Bitcoin is right now, guys, you know, I do see some altcoins really taking a big correction, okay? Taking a dip of 5, 10, even 15% in the next coming days, just because we understand Bitcoin. Bitcoin doesn't drag the altcoins to the upside, but when Bitcoin takes a drop of 5-10%, altcoins will take that drop. Very, very likely. Most of the altcoins, not all of them. So 2 scenarios here on this one. You either maintain that point of control, which is you're almost being touched from the entire range of the last few weeks, or it actually forms an ABC flat where you sweep up the lows. You sweep up the lows for a liquidity grab in this range. And let's take a look here at Fibonacci. Yeah, 50% was not hit. So the liquidity grab, basically a swing failure pattern from these lows, would be the best option, in my opinion. This would be the best option looking at this crypto. So you've got the major pump rally, very, very corrective price action. Very, very corrective, all of this. So there's 2 scenarios, as mentioned. You maintain that point of control in the next 24 hours, and this could actually find support, and then you get the rally. Or even the best scenario would be a sweep of the higher lows of yesterday, right? I think this is yesterday's price action, yeah. Because then what you're looking at here is an ABC flat, and then you look for the major bounce. So, you know, best long option would be a liquidity grab from the higher low of yesterday, because you do have a flat scenario. Now the prices are moving down quite aggressively, and this is what happens, right? You sweep up the high, major pullback. You do have big support. I would rather see this getting a little bit of a consolidation. If you do consolidate here in the next coming hours, it could be the one that gets the bounce. So manage risk accordingly on this this area. This is either the level or this is the level, right? If it loses the level, I would no longer want to be in a trade on this one. And the best scenario would be sweeping up yesterday's lows. Because as you understand that you are in bullish momentum, an ABC flat liquidity grab would be definitely the option, which is sitting at 32 cents. So that's a little bit here of what we got. You either hold here or you sweep up the low, and then we look for higher levels in the case of prompt, right? Keeping it very simple and easy here. We ain't going to go too flashy. The movement is impulsive to the upside. We've got a nice squeeze out here from this, breakout of the downtrend structure here throughout last week. So everything looks pretty damn good. Okay, just a little quick, just because we got the super chat, guys. And I will be going through some altcoins, as you know, but we need to understand a little bit of Bitcoin, okay? We need to understand a little bit of Bitcoin. Let's see how many likes we do have, guys. I need that like button. If you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe. We are going to be focusing on altcoin season. The coming altcoin season, right? Which is getting a little bit hyped up right now. My goodness. But we want to be careful. Altcoins are either to make a lot of money or they either to get wrecked. I had a bit of both. I need to be honest here. I can't say that I've made a huge amount of money with altcoins the last few months. Some of them are in a loss. Not too much right now with this bounce. But yeah, some of them I did hold about a 40% unrealized loss. So I had to hold onto the correction. And on many of them, I managed to profit. Just because of being conservative and aggressive profit taking, such as Constellation DAG, Phala Network as well, one of them, which I want to talk about. Phala Network. I need to get Phala Network here on the chart because this is one that we need to talk about. This is an insane project, guys. Insane. Made in USA also. Phala Network. Yeah, let me find a chart here. I'm not sure if we're using Kraken. Yeah, Kraken is the one. Phala Network is an awesome project, guys. It's insane how awesome this project is, and it's made in USA, and it is. I did manage to sell quite a lot of Phala Network. I'm sure a lot of you that are legit followers, the strategy was simple. We buy at this zone, and we this was my strategy. Everyone can do their own strategy, but I made money on this one, basically on buying, because we understood where we needed to buy and how good this project is. And this managed to do a 4x on average. I didn't sell the top. I sold as we were crossing the highs. Did manage to sell a little bit higher, but it was the strategy. About 50%, just over 50% of the buyings here. And it was the strategy. We were talking about weeks about this strategy. We want to hold a moon bag, but we want to get out here. I want to get out here, right? I'm not a financial advisor. I'm just telling you what I was doing. This is the main reason, because then, we hold a moon bag, and I was actually holding this one at a slight loss here. The rest of not in a loss because I made money on this one, but holding the bags that I bought in a slight loss, unrealized loss for a few weeks here. So, this is the thing. Imagine buying, this is the thing. When you get these aggressive pumps, they are unsustainable. They are unsustainable. You want to get out. You want to get out. These massive pumps are most of the times are unsustainable. So right now we're back at the base. We're back at the base. Back at the base here. So we can see here this one really either starts grinding very aggressively to the upside or really ranging for a little bit, right? We might get that pullback. What I want to explain on many altcoins is that we have kind of rallied, not Phala Network, but other ones such as ICP, Constellation DAG. Some of them have rallied in kind of a 5-wave structure. 𝗖𝗿𝘆𝗽 is the best example here. From the lows here of April, lots of them have formed kind of a 5-wave structure. Now, the most bullish case scenario, just like Ethereum, is that you break out in a third wave and you just 4-5. You know, this just really starts grinding to the upside. You know, you're kind of waiting for the pullback and it never happens. But staying real here, it really depends on Bitcoin. So if Bitcoin does not want to pull back and it continues pumping to break all-time high with a very explosive third wave, you know, we might not get that pullback on these different altcoins, which is, you know, that's why DCAing or getting into a low leverage, be ready to potentially, you know, add ever so slightly low leverage to that position on a major pullback that could happen. Because when we take a look at Bitcoin and we realize where we at, Bitcoin, and I'll go through the comment section now, guys, okay? Just want to give a little bit of my opinion here on the situation. This live stream is, you know, is mainly focused on getting ready for this week. We'll be doing a lot of altcoin analysis just to look for the proper opportunities, guys, right? Just get into the proper opportunities and stay real here. But I don't want anybody here buying the highs. I don't want anybody buying the rally and hyping in the rally, just like what happened in November and December, where, you know, you got a lot of people just, you know, the people that just may be, the people that are just bullish, they're eventually going to be right. The people that are only bearish, they're eventually going to get it right as well. So now we're getting that hype and that bullishness, and we're getting some pumps on some altcoins. I just want to let you know there are some plans here that we can create and make money on these altcoins. I'm not an altcoin guy based on analysis. I only talk about them when I know about a few of them and we know where to buy, okay? The different ones such as Constellation DAG, Phala network, and we have, you know, target zones, right? And we do realize where there is a good buying opportunity. I don't want anybody buying the pumps, right? Because, you know, you're buying a pump, right? Let's leave it that way. Can it continue pumping? Absolutely. But you just want to be aware. Don't be the pullback, right? We will be getting some plans ready here. We mainly focus on Bitcoin trading. Today is not going to be a Bitcoin trading live stream. We will take a look at the local timeframes just to look for a possible scalp day trade. I mean, this is what we like to do. We like to get into trading opportunities, but I think the opportunities on altcoins can be massive. And eventually we need to talk about this, but we need to talk about it with, you know, the feet on the ground, right? And not being in UP land, right? And just say altcoins, we buy all of them right now at, you know, with this pump, because then you will be part of the pullback very, very likely, right? You just want to be cautious that, you know, rallying here on Ethereum. I mean, maybe Ethereum is just going to do this, right? Who knows? Well, this is why also Ethereum was my main bag, my main altcoin that I was only buying here, which was not much because I already had, but I think Ethereum was, you know, it's the home for DeFi. Ethereum, all of this looks corrective. You got the point of control. Worst case scenario, we get to $1,000, right? This is something that we talked about, but it's just, you know, worth DCAing very aggressively. This is the home of DeFi and smart contracts. It's not Solana, it's not the BNB chain, it's not any other crappy chain out there that have had much more better price action throughout the last, you know, few months, such as Solana. It is Ethereum, but Ethereum's been punished very, very aggressively. But this will come out of the ashes and will blow your socks off because it is the home for DeFi. And the whole reason of crypto is decentralization, decentralized finance, smart contracts, right? And all of the different dApps that you can build on top of it. And it's not the other different chains that are being created, right? This is like the real deal. So this one is the big bet, right? You know, Ethereum is the big bet based on, you know, blockchain project. Anyway, let's go right away through the altcoin analysis here, guys, and altcoin analysis, the Bitcoin analysis, right? And understand a little bit where we at right now. You know, we like to take a look at some, you know, internal scalping opportunities, but let's take a look at the bigger picture and understand where we at. There are two scenarios here. One is the extreme bullish case scenario, which is like someone said here in the comment section, Hamed, I think it was, we break out tomorrow, Monday. We actually get to all-time high tomorrow. We actually break through. There's no corrections. There's no nothing. All of the resistance are getting broken. I can say that that can happen because all of the movements that we have created in these consolidations, whoever's a legit follower as well from the last few weeks, we were bullish in this range to take out the highs at least. We were aware of the point of control and the possible rejection, okay? We're aware of the resistance that we are having here, which has been proven to be resistance, right? Any legit follower will know as well that we've been talking about this also on a dedicated video where, hey, we're hitting the golden pocket from all-time high, very similar from the previous cycle. And we're hitting the point of control. It was resistance. It was resistance, but a lot of people take this as, this is it, massive short, guys. We're gonna roll down back to 74k, right? When you say resistance on the higher time frame, people do think, oh, that's it, you're bearish, then this is resistance. If you paid attention, and I know many of you did, in this local range, we were analyzing the 15-minute chart, and we understood that everything that's happening in here is corrective, and the highs are just going to be taken every single time. And we have a similar scenario in this little range. This is we are heading to a resistance zone. This is resistance, and for the moment, taking out the highs consistently, is the bet here, because this little range that we formed does not have a solid breakdown. It doesn't have a solid move to the downside, okay, that can prove us that yes, we can get a larger pullback, right? We haven't got a major local break of structure here to say now we can pull back down a few $1,000s based on the first move sign of weakness. And this is the importance, right? Because even if I say this is resistance, a lot of people will take it as, I'm bearish, I don't believe that all-time high is going to be hit. Absolutely. This is why we, study the local time frame, and, we analyze the different movements. I mean, the movements from here, this range, right? We understood that all of this looks very, very corrective, right? All of this nonsense that was happening here was to come and take out the highs every single time. And we're having something very similar in this zone. I will go through the lower time frames later on, but I think we need to go through higher time frames first of all. But there's no big rejection. We had a first little sign on the other day, but this has ended up also in a flat zigzag WXY. You had a flat, you had a zigzag, another zigzag. This is all being corrective in the end. If the only chance that we had here that was explained, which was regardless coming to take out the low, right? The possibility of taking out this low. But if you take out this low and you bounce, okay, you understand that this speculative 5-wave move down, regardless being an ABC flat or being part of a larger corrective move, if we get this bounce in a zigzag and you come down and you do not break through with this movement down, this is only being part of a correction, and you're likely going to form a higher low and take out the highs in the end. So yeah, I mean, this is why new information is always crucial, right? And this is what, I love the lower time frame, because that's what I want to, I'm looking for these internal movements where I realize there's no sign of weakness here. We had the first possible sign of weakness here on the lower time frame, but then you had the ABC flat. Of course, an ABC flat can bring you to a larger corrective structure, WXY, where you have a zigzag. So the bears had the chance here to break down, but if the bears don't break down, you just realize that, holy shit, this is corrective, right? You're going to end up taking out the highs again. So anyways, it's pretty fascinating. So we'll go through the we have to talk about this range. We have to talk about it. we have to talk about this local price action to try and figure out, you know, is this still all part of a corrective move? Because if this has been the correction and we've taken out the highs, how has the price moved to the upside? And there is kind of a cheeky expanding move here, a cheeky expanding move, but we've also hit the 0.88 Fibonacci retracement right there. And this could obviously be something else. We'll be analyzing the different options here, but we need to focus on higher time frame. We need to zoom out on higher time frame because, yeah, I'm trying to explain something on the higher time frame here and I end up zooming in on the lower time frame. But for the moment, there's no real sign of weakness, right? Still very rangy. The movements to the upside, we hit the 0.88. So you just have higher probability in chopping still, ranging, taking out the highs till we actually get the pullback. We're going to talk about the resistance, big resistance level. And one of them is the 0.88. I love 0.88, guys. It's a very well respected level. And we're going to do some examples here on what happened with the 0.88 from this range, which is, you know, pretty cool to see. You know, 0.88 doesn't mean that we need to reject that, but it's a very well respected fib level. Scenarios here. Most bullish one, keeping it simple. We do break out here in a third wave to the upside. Okay, we are still in the third wave and we break out. This movement that we've had to the upside has been part of the first wave of your third wave here from the larger time frame. You're still developing the third wave here and you're just grinding and it just continues popping and grinding and popping, and then you get a little bit of a larger range and then you just continue. You know, we go to $115,000 in the next few days to form that third wave. Then we get a little bit of a double top situation, right? We get beneath, we form that fourth wave, and then we just continue ripping in the fifth wave that could be expanding. It could go to 120, 130. And, you know, we could be really saying that maybe we could be, you know, topping out with this range. You know, if we move up so euphoric here, I would not, I would say that there will be a devastating move to the downside if we do not get the pullback in the next, you know, coming days. If we continue this rally, we build up the hype, and it's the perfect situation, obviously, to bring, you know, people saying, you know, this is a revolution, this, that, the other, 115, 120. If we don't get any decent pullback after this movement to the upside, obviously the pullback will be greater later on. The pullback will be greater later on when we start talking about 200K, right? 250K Bitcoin. You know, the pullback could be really nasty. So in my opinion, the best scenario would be getting that pullback, in the next coming days, because it will make it more bullish. Because if we get that pullback, preferably to the low 90K levels, you know, maybe even lower, that would be ideal. Then basically what we're looking at is a wave 2 here after the break of this structure, which will bring eventually that bigger explosive wave 3 later on this year. And that's what we want to see. So in my opinion, a pullback would be more bullish for the next 1 to 2 weeks. You know, it would be more bullish just because this movement to the upside is very impulsive, right? You do have a 5-wave structure. You're broken out of this correction. This was, you know, this was very corrective, guys. You know, the question here was, will we form another low? Because it was getting very complex. You know, you had zigzag, you had a flat, you had, you know, many 3-wave structures developed in this movement down, regardless that the you know, the reversal was imminent at some point. You know, the question was, you know, could there be a chance of taking out the low again? Well, there is a chance eventually, but all of this being corrective and understanding that a reversal was the highest probability. So if we were to get the movement down, our biggest level of support that we do have, right, is the point of control. The biggest level of support that we do have is the point of control. This would be a shallow pullback. Let's keep it that way for a wave 2. You formed a 5-wave move to the upside. You get the pullback. This would be good for either a bounce and continuation to the upside, break all-time highs, or form a lower high. I'm not sure if we would form a lower high here. We might just form the zigzag down to the mid 90K levels and then just continue. We know Bitcoin is very, very bullish. So, expecting big pullbacks at this point, right? Seems like we might not get that big pullback. Most commonly, you do get below the 4th wave, right? When we do take into consideration that this is a 5-wave move to the upside. Okay, let's just turn this white. Okay, when we do take into consideration that this has been a 5-wave move to the upside, if it were to be a 5-wave move and we're not forming that 3rd wave as explained, right? 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 5, right? Where your 3rd wave is still developing, which is it's very much a scenario, right? For the moment, we are not getting any proper rejections. We are at resistance, but we're not pulling back, and all of the ranges that we're forming here are corrective, which means, yeah, we're likely going to take out the highs again. Take out the highs. So just to understand, because even though we talk about resistance, people are going to say, that resistance, you're bearish. It's resistance, but the movements that are happening on the lower time frame are very corrective, which means you'll end up taking out the highs sooner rather than later, right? With a bigger pullback or not, it doesn't matter. Still no signs of weakness, still not a big move down, break of local structure, 5-wave impulse, increase of volume, right? We have nothing of that right now. Once we have our first leg down, then yeah, we can speculate on another wave to the downside, but we still haven't got the first wave to the downside, and all of the movements that are happening locally are very corrective, such as this one right over here last week, right? So most commonly here, guys, legends, okay, most commonly in a corrective move after an impulse, most of the times, right, regardless if it's this one or this one, you do your ABC most of the time, not always, okay, we're looking at the probability side here, you do correct down to the 4th wave. Sweeping up the higher low of the 4th wave is very common when you have a 5-wave impulsive structure to the upside, right? And of course, this is a moment where a lot of people are going to be very, very bullish, right? All-time high, this is it, guys. This is it, right? There's no pullbacks to happen. We just need to consider, if it does, sweeping up the 4th wave is very, very common. Now, the 4th wave is sitting at $93,000, $92,000 range. This area eventually would be, the best option. Would be the best option to find support, right? People are going to really panic if we do lose that point of control where we did get resistance just last week. If that level is lost, then eventually, there's a moment of panic, right? Whoa, we've lost this level. We want to be, hey, it is not looking too great, this pullback. But it would be the most common area. And you also have the value area low of this trading range. And it would be a bit nice for a wave 2 here. It would be even better, guys. It would be more bullish, in my opinion. Now, I've been thinking about selling some Bitcoin here just to have a little bit of more cash to buy some altcoins, I have to be honest. Because I know my upside potential on Bitcoin in this cycle for the next coming months. Am I going to do a 1.5x extra, right? And that's taking me to $150,000. The money that I can make right now with my Bitcoin holdings is very, very small compared to some altcoins. And of course, this is, you know, you obviously take a risk on altcoins, but being real here, the main reason why I haven't sold, and I might sell this week, guys, you know, another extra 5% or so, just so, you know, I want to move some Bitcoin into altcoins, is because it looks very bullish, right? The main reason I haven't sold some more Bitcoin is because we have broken from a major corrective move in a 5-wave move to the upside, and it's, you know, it's either very, very bullish where you have the multiple 1 2 and you have 3 4 5, right? 4 5, you're just really rocketing here. I would rather sell at 115 or 120 if we do get there in the next couple of weeks, if the most bullish case scenario is in play. And if it does pull back, obviously I'm not selling on the pullback, but I would realize that the next wave up could be absolutely massive, right? Which would be that third wave to really get to 120, 130, you know, and that's the moment that I would really wait for the consolidation and the choppiness, right? The moment you start chopping here, at some point you realize that that could be it, right? That could be the top. So we still got a lot of time to realize, you know, where some aggressive profits can be made. What do we need to see, right? So for the moment, it is bullish. All of the corrective movements, this range that we formed throughout the last few days is very corrective, and there's no sign of weakness. There is no sign of weakness. There's actually signs of strength, which is, you know, all of these ranges are pulling back very correctively, except the one that we had here on Friday, which I was, you know, this is the first possible scenario, and you want to speculate on a lower high, golden pocket 50%, which did retrace and got the rejection at the golden pocket from the pivot high to the pivot low, and you're targeting the lows. I mean, you know, this is an acceptable scalp day trade to the lows, just because this movement down did move down in a impulsive move, especially after a double top. But when we consider day trading, you're targeting the lows, and if you start dancing at the lows, you want to get out if you're shorted here. If you don't break down and follow through, you want to get out. If you did get into a short here on the first only sign of weakness, which was this first movement to the downside, because there was on the 5 minute, 10 minute, whatever, a little bit of a 5-wave and move down. Always considering the flat scenario and considering a larger correction, which of course can be a W, X, and a Y, where you're forming a flat, a zigzag, and another zigzag to the downside. And that was it. Then the price moved up in bullish momentum. So yeah, I mean, this is a correction. This was a correction. This ended up being very corrective. You didn't know breakdown, no follow through. The lower high potential was at the 50% to the 7/8 Fibonacci, and the lows is your target. And of course, if you break down, then that's a good sign. You're taking profit, you're protecting, you can hold some of that position, speculate on the bearish case. But if you do not break and you get this bounce, you know that hasta luego, Lucas. You know, this is no longer, you know, there's no bearish momentum. That's it. This is still part of a larger corrective move. So when we do see how the price has moved to the upside, right? And let's zoom ever so slightly to 15-minute, right? This is where it's getting a little bit interesting at the moment. Still, the movements down don't look too promising. They don't look too promising. You're taking out the high. So, you know, as mentioned, this ended up corrective. You know, the speculation here for me right now is correction, movement up, correction, aggressive movement up in your wave 3, high volume, corrective move in a WXY here. You got your flat, your zigzag, zigzag. And then from this corrective move of Friday, the movement up, I'm interested in the next movement to the up, the last low to the last high. I'm interested in this next move. How did we move up there? Right? And when you do zoom in, how did we move up there? Right? How did we claim those highs since we created this corrective structure? Flat, zigzag, zigzag. We moved up in a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That low was not taken, and this is Bybit, so I'm sure that we did not get that wick on a lot of the exchanges. So you do have a 5-wave move up here in a expanding move. If you have a 5-wave move in an expanding move, and this is very, very classic when you form a third wave, you get very, very choppiness here, okay? You can consider that this could be a local top. However, how did we move down since we created that top is the extra information that we are going to realize. Do the bears have priority then? Or it's still part of a correction, and this could be just another 1, 2, and we're just going to break out again, right? And we just continue the momentum, right? There's just no, right? So this is why, this is why it's crucial here. When you understand the movement to the downside, right? And this, I mean, you need to love this, guys. If you don't like it, then, and this is getting really, just because I like it and I really like to detect the probabilities here, but you can keep it more simple, right? Just like the other day when we're talking about setups, and I will talk about just general setups on the streams, guys. I just love talking about Elliott wave theory and looking at the probability side of the movements. But we try and talk about setups here on the channel, and the latest setup, which was 3 days ago on the channel, was literally an order block flip. We're going to use VWAP order blocks and stuff like that for trading setups, because sometimes I'm obsessed with TA, and I'm obsessed of finding the highest probabilities scenarios. But sometimes trading can be much more simple. When you use more basic stuff, right? And there was one trading setup that we talked about here the other day, which was just a bounce from an order block, nice little scalp movement of $1,000, right, on average. I'm going to try and focus more on this kind of content, because I know a lot of people just don't want to follow, right, the complex analysis. Not for everybody. And we want to keep it simple as well, right? We can do a bit of a mix. Anyway, when we do analyze this movement down, for the moment, this movement to the downside, right, from this low, which this is corrective, what kind of movement did we have here? You can count this as a 5-wave move to the upside, so that could be a finished movement. And the movement down that we had here, lots of waves, very choppy, right? And this is like a 5-minute, very choppy, this is very, very difficult to say, has this been impulsive? I don't see a major impulse down here. There's no major impulse. We would start speculating on a, contracting diagonal, right? Which is like, I don't like it too much. This would have to be a wave 1, wave 2. It looks more of a zigzag. So, especially when you have this rally that hits the 0.88 Fibonacci, which you realize that for this to be an impulse, wave 1, wave 2, and then get continuation in a big breakdown from here is unlikely. It's an unlikely scenario. So you need to come to the conclusion that still what you're forming in this range is corrective, and you'll end up taking out this high. So higher probability is sooner rather than later, despite any noise that happens in this range, that you have a high chance in taking out the highs. just realizing on the movement down, it does not look like an impulse. You know, it doesn't look a sign of weakness, right? Bears are taking control here, guys. Be careful, because bears are taking control. Yeah, there's no bearish control here. There's no bearish control, and especially when this bounce hits the 0.88 Fibonacci, you realize that there is low probability for a strong movement down here. So strong consolidation, still very corrective. All the movements down are looking corrective. High probability to still take out the high. I mean, this is very similar to what we talked about in this range that we had just last week, right? Very, very corrective pullbacks. Very, very corrective. No signs of weakness, no nothing. So, you know, you obviously look for the tests of the highs until you break out massively. So, yeah, it just looks. Yeah, there is a way of counting this as a contracting move. There is a way, I have to say, because you do have your wave 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for your wave 3, wave 4, wave 5. But this bounce looks more bullish, and you're hitting the 0.88. So I would rather count this as a possible double zigzag. But yeah, there would actually be a way here of counting this in, you know, contracting diagonal, I have to say. Just because you've moved up here in 5-wave structure after this correction, yeah, you would have to give a chance here for the pullback. Just because you moved up in a 5-wave structure from the correction, you would have to give a possible chance here for the bears. But as mentioned, you have hit the 0.88 Fibonacci, so everything looks still okay. You need a pretty aggressive move to the downside, right? Let's talk about the levels of resistance that we do have here. All right, and the levels of resistance, anyway, keeping it very simple, the biggest level of support is the point of control at 96,800, right? Give or take 97 or 96.2, right? In that range, between 96 and $97,000 is the point of control of the range, where we did get a big reaction. We actually got a pullback of a few $1,000s. So eventually coming down to that level at some stage, regardless, taking out the highs or not, and then maybe, you know, getting the pullback or taking out all-time high. This is the biggest level of support, right? And then the next biggest level of support is sweeping up the lows, where we have the value area low of the entire range. If we take a look at Fibonacci, retracement from the pivot low to the pivot high. Yeah, I mean, the 382 is sitting beneath these lows. It seems impossible right now. The price is so bullish that, you know, we're just going to pump and take out all-time high, right? But yeah, just want to be aware of the situation here, legends. Okay, we are getting a little bit choppy at this resistance. You just need to be aware of the situation. Okay, that you know you have moved in a very 5-wave matter here, and we know the deal, right? When you zoom out to take a look at the higher time frame, now what we're getting is extra bull run in the 5th wave. When you take a look at the low of the bear market in 2022, you have a perfect 5-wave move to the upside. You know, this is when people say, you know, Elliott wave theory, yeah, you know, it's very too much analysis paralysis, right? It's just understanding the possible projections, and especially when you add it with confluence levels, you understand where the price could stop and where the price could bounce, right? So here you have 5 waves. when Donald Trump came into president, when we were hitting all-time high, you know, that was the top. You know, you did form already a 5-wave move to the upside, and what we get in this extra cycle is just an extra push up, still either in an expanding fifth wave. Okay, you would have to go with the expanding fifth wave. A multiple 1-2 here is also possible. 1-2, 1-2, 1-2, triple 1-2. You're in the formation of the third wave, 4-5, 4-5, and you just, you know, that's the most bullish case scenario. I would lean on an expanding fifth wave, where, you know, potentially you do correct. You know, you then break out in the third wave, and then fourth wave, you know, fifth wave, 130, 150K, right? Kind of a realistic high for this cycle. I mean, this would be a realistic target zone for the cycle, based on the different projections, but we're gonna have to see how we break out eventually on the higher time frame. Expanding fifth wave makes sense, or a multiple 1-2, 1-2, 1-2, 1-2, and you're in the third wave still. I mean, this would be the most bullish case. You would have to really rip out here in the next coming weeks, which is an option, right? It is a very much a possible option. I like the expanding fifth wave better, just because if we consider this second wave to the upside, another 1-2, this 1-2 is much greater than the first 1-2. And that already is something that is very rare to happen. That would be very rare to happen, right? You want your second, third 1-2 to be smaller, and then eventually, you know, the breakout in 4-5, 4-5s. So this to be a second 1-2, which is much greater than your first one, not in many scenarios, not in many charts throughout the history. You would speculate more in an expanding fifth wave, where you have only your first 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Expanding fifth wave makes more sense, which eventually wouldn't give you that much projection in the next coming months. So, I mean, $130,000, $140,000 would make sense for a realistic target area. I mean, could it get the extra push to 150, 160? 200K even sounds a bit aggressive, if you ask me, legends. I'm not sure what's your take. What is your price prediction for Bitcoin in this bull cycle? Because we're literally just below all-time high, just $5,000. Let me know down below in the comment section. I'm going a little bit conservative here, even though, you know, I wish we would blast off, right, to 200K in the next coming weeks, right, and just don't stop, because I would be very happy by selling right, some Bitcoin at higher levels. Anyway, let me know your in the comment section. I'll go through the comment section right away. 120K Empire Trades. Let me go through comment section. It's about time to go through comment section now, legends. 174K, my target says one with nature. 146 to 200 says Oriel. 120K all-time high, then down to 64K says 𝗬𝗏𝗃. Okay, very cool, very interesting. 120K, then down to 64K. Yeah, we're really going to see a lot of information now throughout the next coming weeks. And just imagine, we are hitting naked point of control at the moment. The 0.88 Fibonacci has almost been hit. Even though, I mean, if the price gets a pullback from this level and it gets an aggressive one, this is going to be the opportunity, in my opinion, because this movement up is extremely impulsive. The problem is, if this is a wave one and a wave two would happen, I wouldn't be scared, guys, on the pullback here. If we do get an aggressive pullback, it's very likely going to be corrective. We'll be analyzing that movement very, very carefully and saying, you know, this is it, guys. You know, this is going to be the low. It's obviously going to take a few weeks to develop. This is the daily time frame, but this movement up is very impulsive. It's extremely impulsive, very, very strong indeed. What I do understand is the 0.88. and that we have moved in a 5-wave structure here. The 0.88 Fibonacci, with just a few $100s and hitting the 0.88. Yeah, just round about $1,500 from current price levels and hitting the 0.88 Fibonacci at $15,500. This is where the value area high is of this range. This, reminds me of this range right over here. When we had this massive consolidation, you just see how the price reacts at the 0.88 with the value area high. It's pretty insane. When we don't need the value area high, we know it's the value area high regardless. But just so you see the 0.88 Fibonacci, you get the classic high, massive rally, classic high, zigzag, break of structure. This is it, guys. We're heading up to all-time high, zigzag, ABC, right? Yeah, this is it. ABC, break of structure. This is it, right? We're just so close and hitting the all-time high. The Fibonacci level that ruined the party, at least in the short term here, was the 0.88 Fibonacci from the all-time high to the low. I mean, and this was with the value, attempting to break value area high, right? Attempting to break the value area high, 0.88 touch, rejection. We had another one right there, forming that double top. So yeah, 0.88 can, this is the last level in my opinion, right? It's kind of the last, it is the last level before hitting all-time high. But it ruined the party in the last consolidation, at least in the short term, right? Then, yeah, everything worked out pretty nicely, like it always does for Bitcoin. But even so, creating one more low in this range, even so, getting rejected at the 0.88, we came down and we moved up and we got rejection again from the 0.88 from this latest move down. Right, pivot high to the pivot low, 0.88, perfect touch to the dollar, rejection. So the 0.88 is one of those levels that kind of ruins the party, at least in the short term. So, and there's many examples of the 0.88. I'm not sure if this one was a 0.88 touch as well. Let's double check. Yeah, no, it wasn't in this case. It's not to be bearish, guys. It's not to be bearish. It's just to be aware that it's a level that it does many times gets a reaction and it could reject so slightly, right? It's just to take into consideration. So as we do have all of this consolidation, which has another naked point of control, right? And the 0.88 Fibonacci, 105.5. It's one of those levels that you say, especially when you consider how you've moved up in a 5-wave structure here. 5-wave move up, just a few $1,000s away from all-time high. I think there is actually a lot of people that maybe are watching this level and they will say, screw their levels. A lot of people are looking for the levels, and, I'm in no short position and I haven't sold any Bitcoin here. I want to sell and I want to get into a short, because shorting when you have a massive bag of Bitcoin is, you're eventually hedging it, right, from your holdings or your long position. So I am interested, but I don't have a reason to do so yet, right? Just the same as here, there's no reason to do so yet, even though you're hitting the point of control in the golden pocket. So you would rather stay long, even though, I'm interested in shorts. Being interested in shorts doesn't mean that I'm in the shorts, but I'm very much interested. But I need that first initial sign of weakness, official movement down, like we had the other day. And this is a great attempt. Whoever paid attention, this movement down in a 5-wave structure is, could be that first initial sign of weakness. When you move down in a potential sign of weakness to then break down, then possibly break down, nobody knows what the heck's going to happen. So This is really looking at the probabilities, as you know, right? If you are going to move in a 5-wave structure to the downside on the 5-minute, 15-minute, right? Those are the time frames that you need to take a look at if you want to start thinking about a possible sign of weakness. You want to reject in between 50% and the 7/8 Fibonacci, which is where we got the rejection. We got one here, but then this ended up in a zigzag, which was also a possibility, right? Also a possibility in trying to break the lows. This is your zone if you want to speculate on the short, 50% to the 7/8, which we did talk about the other day, to give a chance of testing the lows and maybe breaking down. Maybe breaking down, right? I don't know if we're going to break down. Eventually, we did not break down. So all of this ended up in a larger corrective structure, which in this case, for me at least, with my analysis, was an ABC flat, zigzag up, zigzag down, take out the low here again, and then grinded here to the upside. Corrective structure. As you're moving correctively and the bears failed to break down here, then eventually all of this after a pump confirms to be a correction. So then you look to take out the high. So, I mean, as you get that information, but the attempt, as explained yesterday, our first possible sign of weakness is here, and where it needs to reject and where it needs to test is in between 50% Fibonacci and the 7/8. And where you're looking at to test is the low to see if it will manage to break down. It did not break down. So eventually you did not get that, impulsive move down or a larger ABC move. You continued dancing around. So all of this confirmed that it is a sideways correction, and you look for the highs to be taken, right? Just a little bit of education right there. Just realizing, so that's what, this is literally what I need. If I am going to rely on this movement down here to say that this is a contracting diagonal and this is your, corrective bounce, and now you're forming multiple 1-2s to move to the downside, it is not enough. This is not enough for me to be bearish. It's not enough. I need a strong move down. I need a little bit of action here. And a little bit of action with high volume and a bounce. And that bounce needs to be extremely choppy, like this, but inverted. I want to see this movement, this kind of movement, inverted. Right? Let's do that inversion here for the viewer, basically, so we understand the inversion here. I want to get that breakdown, and then I want to see this kind of, dancing, extremely corrective price action, which I realize that there is low probability in getting the continuation. So, but I need that breakdown. I need a little bit of action to the downside and the sideways momentum. Then I would say, yeah, I'm ready for the, I'm shorting this, and I'm getting, I'm looking for at least a leg to the downside, at least another leg down, regardless if it's a C wave or a third wave. If it's a third wave, then eventually we'll be going to the low 90K levels. But we need something first, right? We need this first. We need something. We need, we have nothing right now. This is bullish, just like all of this movement was bullish. So what we look at is to take, to continue the momentum till we've proven otherwise. All of this was bullish. This is bullish corrective price action. Anyway, let's go right away. Let's go and read those targets in the comment section with the legends. $164,000 top right over there here from Steven. Let's go, baby. That's a good target. Good target for Bitcoin, $164,000. It's interesting. We got a bit of conservative targets. I would have been a little bit worried if most of the people would have said we're going to 200K or 250K. Lots of conservative targets for the top of the bull run. Even some people saying 120K, 140, 160 is the average range here for the top, based on what you guys are commenting. So I'm also in that range. I'm very conservative, very conservative. You know, I'm not a moon boy, as you have realized maybe. I do see Bitcoin at $1 million, but that's in the next coming years, of course. So this is why it's important to have Bitcoin in the portfolio, because I don't know how high it can go. Right? So every time it dips, you want to be interested in buying. It's very, very funny because I do get a lot of people, friends, family, and they talk about altcoins. And I've always said for the last 7 years that I've been in crypto, just buy Bitcoin. Just buy Bitcoin. It's going to go to $1 million in the future. Just bloody damn buy Bitcoin, right? You ain't an investor. I am not going to be going behind. I'm holding Chainlink since 2019 and I haven't sold. Do you think that, you know, I can give you financial advice and just buy Bitcoin for the long term, right? For people that are not into trading and want to, you know, want to return, super simple. Just buy Bitcoin and hold on. And if it dips, buy more. You know, the strategy is effective. You ain't going to make 100x, but you will make a 10x or a 15x in the next few years. So yeah, anyway, you get the deal. We're not going to 135k to 200k realistic MKJK. Yeah, 𝗬𝗫𝗿𝗫 120k, 105.5. Yeah, 105.5 is a major resistance. That is the 0.88 Fibonacci, which would be having an attempt, right? And that's what, you know, it does happen. You get that cheeky attempt to break the value area high with the 0.88 Fibonacci, you know, and that's, you know, literally where we at, right? You know, it is a resistance level. It is a resistance, 0.88 fib from highs to lows, 0.88 fib from highs to lows with the value area high. There's a couple of naked point controls in this region. So, you know, this is why the price is dancing ever so slightly. But there's no signs of weakness. We haven't got an official breakdown. We haven't started a major sign of weakness. And we maybe never will. And we're going to go to $150,000 in the next 1 to 2 weeks. And this ends up being a multiple 1-2-1-2 setup. 4-5, 4-5. You know, this is just going to rip. This is going to be bull market kind of, right? Parabolic price action. That's, you know, maybe we are in that stage till we proven otherwise, right? It's just a zone that you want to be a little bit cautious. That is for sure, right? Just a little bit cautious. Anybody that's trying to get into long positions at the highs, unless you're scalping like we do in the Legends trading community, you know, at Aiden talked about an epic long position from this movement down, understanding it is corrective, but it's a long to get out at the highs. Right? Just a simple move. And shout out to Aiden, by the way. This was provided on Friday. This was the setup provided on Friday on Bitcoin. We're going to get multiple setups ready. And longs or shorts, it doesn't matter. They are technical movements of $1,000 to $2,000 on average. We might catch a $3,000 move. But on Bitcoin, we look at intraday setups, regardless for shorts or longs. Right? If you want more of this, you have the Legends trading community, guys. Of course, that's where we do provide the videos, education. You got the modules to learn yourself how to, you know, chart Bitcoin mainly, or any asset. You know, you can use it for any asset. You have the Legends community down below in the description. It's the 4th link, guys, if you really want to take your trading to the next level. You also have Weeks, guys. Weeks and Bluffin are great exchanges. They both just require an email and a password. Weeks is great. You got up to $30,000 deposit bonus. If you move 5 million of trading volume, which is not too hard, you get a $2,000 deposit bonus as well. You get 25% fee reduction with the second link down below on Weeks, guys. And I think you can trade almost anywhere. No VPN, no nothing, you know, with Weeks. Bluffin also gets, you know, massive bonuses if you want to trade on Bluffin. They both have loads of altcoins to trade with. You have the second and third link down below. What's going on? The link is unsafe. I will double check the links here, my man. Let me double check. None of the links are unsafe, okay? I will not give any unsafe links to the to the community eventually. Okay, let me double check here on those links. Yeah, they're all good by the looks of things. Just double checking. Yeah, they're all good. Okay. How do you get the Legends training community? Legends community is, by clicking on this link right over here. Okay, it's this takes you to the website, and on the website you have become a legend, right? And you have the link here. You got the free Discord, you got the paid version. In the paid version, you do get the modules. We talk about Elliott wave theory, harmonics, how to set up, daily levels, monthly levels, naked pointer controls. We talk about fixed volume profile, VWAP, you name it, order block, you have, you name it, right? Anything that you can imagine. No moving averages. Devil's getting one with moving average out, but I just don't use the moving averages. So no moving averages, but moving averages you can find anywhere. Still long 125x. That is crazy. Top video, thanks, says Roman. Much love to you. Got it. 𝗬𝗏𝗏, much love to you. Are you bullish on 𝗬𝗚𝗃? Do you know what? Guys, we haven't talked about the altcoins, but I think I should make an altcoin video tomorrow or talk about them in the live stream tomorrow. But we're going to have a lot of time to talk about these altcoins. I'm going to have them ready and I'm going to be talking about them. Constellation DAG is made in US, and Ministry of Defense is actually using the network. Okay, it's not blockchain, it is DAG. So this one is, in my opinion, is going to be one of those that is going to pop out big time. And we detected this one back in September, October. And this is huge. This is made in USA. This one, I do see a very, very strong rally, and it is a mid-low cap. It is a mid-low cap. Cryptocurrency. Where's Constellation DAG here? It is down. Yeah, Constellation DAG ranked 376, 150 million market cap, and still hasn't done much. And look at Melania, it's just behind Melania coin. My goodness, that's ridiculous. Very, very solid project, Constellation DAG. And the chart looks, wow, it looks amazing. It looks amazing. This reminds me of PRQ. Let me just get PRQ out here, because it's just forming an ascending triangle, right? Let's do it that way. And PRQ got devastated. But the plan was the plan, right? I actually made money on PRQ. This was the breakout. But you basically have the pump, the dump, ascending triangle formation, and massive breakout. And when you and this one broke out and came back down, but the target was the target, right? Luckily it did get the target, managed to get over 50% of profits here. Just over 3x. Nothing too major, guys. Anybody that was waiting for 10, 20x's throughout the last year on altcoins, most of them didn't, unless you bought 𝗕𝗶𝗴 or some other meme coins that did do a 5, 10x right throughout the year. But Constellation DAG is forming a very, very interesting ascending triangle formation here. But if we do come down to the support, you either get into the breakout, flip the resistance into support, and get ready either here for a long position on the retest, or come down to the higher low. And on the higher low is where you would be interested here, just to continue this momentum that we formed in the last couple of weeks, to actually have an attempt to finally break out at some point. Just grinding up here, and this is a clear sign of a bottom formation on Constellation DAG. Massive rally here, zigzag move, bottoming out, ascending triangle. This is ready for the pop. We've got many altcoins popping here. You want to be in the pop, not join the pop, right, as you're moving up, which you can continue the rally, but overall we want to be in the ones that haven't popped out yet. Constellation DAG is an awesome project. We'll be taking a look at these different altcoins this week, guys. Make sure to subscribe. We'll be analyzing Bitcoin as always, and then the altcoins. It does look interesting, but Bitcoin is at a major resistance zone, and if Bitcoin does reject from this $105,000 area and gets a pullback in the next coming days, we're going to see that pullback on altcoins, and that's where we are going to be ready. We'll be getting those altcoin videos to say, let's analyze that pullback and, you know, let's jump in. Anybody that wants to jump in, DCA, I mean, it's already at good DCA levels, right? We'll be talking about swing trading positions mainly. Much love, everybody. Have a great rest of the Sunday, and I'll see you tomorrow.